One.
Good morning, Grace and friends. It's so good to be back with you after 3 weeks away. Today's sermon is about spiritual experiences, those that have shaped and formed us. One of the most important things a church can do is to provide spiritual experiences for their people that shape and deepen their spiritual lives. So today we're talking together about those experiences which have shaped us as persons and as a church. Our young people have reported to us from their Baptist Youth Camp experiences. I am so grateful to Andorra, who for many years has helped provide our youth these kinds of experiences. John Westerhoff, the theologian and professor of Christian nurture, writes that as parents and as church, we should provide a set of experiences for our children and youth as they are on their sacred journey toward faith. One, he says, we need to tell and retell the biblical story and its stories of faith until the biblical story becomes our common story. Secondly, we need to celebrate our faith as we participate in worship together. 3, we need to listen and to tell one another about our spiritual experiences and our relationship with God. 4, we need to pray together. And 5, we need to perform faithful acts of service to others together. His list should spark many memories and stories in you. I chose as our text for today a few days in the life of Paul and Silas in Philippi. The book of Acts is full of stories of the experiences of people as the church began its mission into the Hellenistic world. Someone has said that the shortest distance between two people is a story. Here are some stories. Paul and Silas had arrived in Philippi, a Roman colony. They began to look for a synagogue as a home base, which they often did. Finding none, they went to the riverside for when there was not a synagogue, the Jewish custom was to meet near a riverside for worship. There they met a woman named Lydia, a woman of means and a dealer in purple goods. She is described as a God worshiper. Today we might call her a seeker, or one who is spiritual but not religious. When Paul talked to her about Jesus, it resonated deeply within her. It gave her spirituality a home. Paul baptized her and her household, and she offered her home to be the house church for the new Christians in Philippi. Do you remember the early days of our founding here as we met in people's houses? We offer a community to others where their spiritual lives can find a home. Now, they went on in their way toward a house of prayer and met a slave girl who was being exploited by her owners for money. She had soothsaying or fortune-telling powers, and her owners used her for financial gain. Paul exorcised the demon in her, which gave her those powers so she could no longer tell the future. This is what the gospel does. It frees us from all that can enslave us. We offer a home where we can be set free from our destructive patterns, a place to get well and to get whole. People come to church broken, and we offer the kind of healing that love brings. But trouble was brewing. The slave owners were furious that Paul had ruined their money-making scheme. They did not care a bit about the girl. but about the money she brought them. The slave owners seized Paul and Silas, dragged them before the magistrates, had them beaten and thrown into jail. Sometimes when we're about the work of justice and emancipation, we can get into trouble. Good trouble, as John Lewis put it, but trouble nonetheless. During their night in jail, they began singing and praying. All the prisoners could hear them. Who are these guys? They must have thought to themselves. It reminds me of the civil rights hero, Fannie Lou Hamer, who, when encountered with trouble, would start singing, "This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine." Soon others joined her. It became an anthem for civil rights activists. Then an earthquake shook the jail, the foundations of the jail, and released all the shackles of the prisoners. The jailer who was responsible for the prisoners, supposing that all the prisoners had escaped, drew a sword to kill himself. But Paul cried out in a loud voice, "Do not harm yourself." This is our message to those who are in such deep distress, they want to end their lives. Do not harm yourself. You're a beloved child of God. Long story short, the jailer became a believer in Jesus. He took Paul and Silas to his house where he and his whole household were baptized. I love the picture the scene paints. Paul and Silas took water and baptized them, and then they took water and bathed their wounds. Not many of our experiences are quite as dramatic as these, but we have been touched by the love of God and the love of this community. And we've been out in the world touching others with the love of God in so many different ways. We have our stories and our experiences that have shaped us. What are some of yours? You first.